Hello friends, this video on electromagnetic waves part 2 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Please make sure that you have watched part 1 before going ahead with part 2. So we will now start our story with Maxwell's work. So what was Maxwell's work? Maxwell proposed something. He gave a proposal. What was his proposal? He said that we all know that time varying magnetic field generates electric field, right? In our previous lesson, that is electromagnetic induction. What did we study in the lesson electromagnetic induction? We talked about Faraday's law. We talked about Lenz's law. And what do these laws tell us? They tell us that if you have a magnetic field, please recap the Faraday-Lenz law in your mind. Only then you will be able to understand things. Because if you have forgotten Faraday-Lenz law by this time, then it is difficult for you to understand Maxwell's work. And again, so things will get confusing. You will not understand the lesson as such. So it is better that you quickly recap whatever we studied before. So when I talk of Faraday-Lenz law, what was Faraday-Lenz law? It said that if you have a magnet, right? If you move the magnet such that the magnetic field is changing with time. Now, if the magnetic field is changing with time, that means the magnetic flux is changing. And because of the change in magnetic flux, there is an induced EMF. And that induced EMF results in an induced current. And whenever there is a current, that means there is some electric field associated with that electric current also. So that means from Faraday-Lenz law, we saw that a time varying magnetic field generates electric field. So that was the message that was given by Faraday-Lenz law. No doubts, right? So now what Maxwell proposed that is the vice versa possible. That means if time varying magnetic field can generate electric field, can a time varying electric field generate magnetic field? So this is what Maxwell proposed. Maxwell proposed that if a time varying magnetic field can generate an electric field, a time varying electric field can also generate a magnetic field. That means if I change the electric field with time, that means the electric flux will change with time. That will generate a magnetic field. Now nobody has any clue. People said that how is that possible? There is no proof or there is no evidence which tell us that a time varying electric field can generate a magnetic field. How can you prove that? So now Maxwell started working on this. So it was just a proposal. It was just an idea which came to Maxwell's mind, thinking about the Faraday-Lenz law. That if Faraday-Lenz law is true, because Faraday-Lenz law was true, right? They already proved that. How did they prove? You remember Faraday's experiments? In Faraday's experiments, it was seen that whenever you move the magnet near this coil, the magnetic lines of force are changing. Therefore, the magnetic flux is changing, as a result of which there is a current which gets induced in this coil. So, a current is induced in the coil because of the variation of the magnetic field with time, right? So, Faraday-Lenz law was correct. So, nobody had any doubts about that. So, even Maxwell trusted Faraday-Lenz law. And from there only this idea struck him that if Faraday-Lenz law is true, in that case, the vice versa should also happen. A time varying electric field should also be able to generate a magnetic field. Now he started thinking how to prove this. So what did he do? He picked up Ampere's circuital law. See, I am talking about so many laws. I have already discussed and explained all these laws in the previous lessons. So even if you are not remembering these laws, however, that should not happen. If you are going through my videos regularly, you should have understood these laws clearly, and you don't really need to memorize them. You must be knowing them by now, right? So what was Ampere's circuital law? Ampere's circuital law stated that the line integral of magnetic field. So what was Ampere's circuital law? Ampere's circuital law stated that integral of magnetic field over the length element dl is equal to mu naught times the current flowing through the surface. So this was the law given by Ampere. right? So Ampere's circuital law it came into picture to make Biot-Savart's law simpler, right? The way in electrostatics we had Gauss law for Coulomb's law, similarly in magnetism we had Ampere's circuital law to make the Biot-Savart law simple. So Ampere's circuital law stated that, let us suppose if you have any uniform or non-uniform surface, right, where you have some magnetic field. If you consider any loop, if you consider any virtual Amperian loop, like how we have Gaussian surface in case of electrostatics, like that only, if you assume any Amperian loop, then for that loop, this relation will always hold true. That means for that loop, the integral of magnetic field over that entire loop will be equal to the mu naught times the current flowing through the loop, right? So this was Ampere's circuital law, which was well accepted and very well proved by Ampere. Ampere gave an evidence as well as he proved that the law given by him was correct. But when Maxwell started thinking about his idea, the idea which I spoke in the previous slide, he started observing that there was some inconsistency in the Ampere's circuital law. He found that the Ampere's circuital law was not completely correct. There was something inconsistent. What do I mean by inconsistent? Inconsistency means the Ampere's law, circuital law, was not incorrect. It was correct at certain situations, but it was not correct at certain situations. So that means the law was not consistently correct. Now, how did Maxwell's reach at, any scientist just cannot go and tell that, okay, the law given by Ampere was incorrect, and then nobody is going to believe you, right? So you need to give a proof, a proper valid explanation that why do you think that Ampere's circuital law is inconsistent. So now Maxwell started he started getting involved even more vigorously to study in depth the Ampere's circuital law. So what did he do? He took a scenario. He took a capacitor and he tried to calculate the magnetic field at a specific point in case of a capacitor. Now, what was that specific point? That specific point was point P. So this is the point P. So if you see, the point is the same, right? And you have a capacitor. You want to calculate the magnetic field at this point P. Assuming that some current I is flowing through this circuit. This is some current I, if you see. And this current is changing. It is a function of time. Forget about all those things. Now you consider that you have a capacitor, and I have not drawn the complete circuit. It is just a part of the circuit. So you have a capacitor. A current I is flowing through the circuit. You want to calculate the magnetic field at point P. Now, in the setup, he considered 3 different Amperian loops. So that means the scenario is the same, the point is the same, everything, the capacitor is the same, just that I am considering different Amperian loops. Now, according to Ampere's circuital law, it doesn't matter whichever Amperian loop you choose, your result should be the same, right? Because Ampere's circuital law doesn't say that you have to choose a specific Amperian loop, right? It says that you choose any Amperian loop and then the Ampere's circuital law will be valid for that. So now what did Maxwell do? He took these 3 setups and he tried calculating the magnetic field for each of these setups. So he considered the first setup first. So here he considered this surface, the surface which you can see here, this surface as the Amperian loop. So if this is my Amperian loop, in that case, what according to Ampere, so I am considering case 1. So in case 1, according to Ampere's circuital law, integration of B dot dl is equal to mu naught I. Now in this case, what is B is something which we are assuming it to be B because we have to calculate the value of magnetic field. Now what would be integration of dl? Since we have considered a surface of radius r, so what would be dl? dl is nothing but the circumference of the surface, that is the entire perimeter of the surface. So that is equal to 2 pi r. So this would be B into 2 pi r is equal to mu naught I. So that means the magnetic field is mu naught I divided by 2 pi r. So this comes out to be the magnetic field at the point P, because point P is also a point on the surface or on the Amperian surface, right? So this would be, so according to my Ampere's circuital law, the magnetic field at point P should be equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi r. Now let us consider the second setup. In the second setup, I have assumed a different Amperian loop. What is my Amperian loop here? If you look at this blue colored surface, so that is my Amperian loop. It is somewhat like a box which doesn't have the lead. Assume it, imagine the figure like that, only then you'll be able to understand. So this is my surface in such a way that you have, let us suppose it is almost like a box. This blue colored surface is a box, and this acts like a lead which is opened. So this lead is opened. So it is like that. That is my Amperian loop. So in this case, if you apply the same Ampere's circuital law, what do you get? Ampere's circuital law is integration of B dot dl is equal to mu naught I. Now, in this case, again B dot dl would be d integration of dl. That means the total boundary of the surface. And what would be I? If you look at it very clearly, there is no current flowing through the surface, right? Because in this case, we had assumed a loop like this, where the current was flowing through it, because we have assumed the loop outside the capacitor. But in this case, we have assumed the Amperian surface inside the capacitor, and inside the capacitor, there is no current flowing at all, right? The current is flowing only through the wire outside the capacitor. So that means there is no current at all. So this side is 0. So that means the magnetic field comes out to be 0. So according to this setup, the magnetic field at point P comes out to be 0, which is quite surprising, because even if I choose a different Amperian surface, my magnetic field should come out to be the same at the same point, right? Now he took the next setup where he had assumed this as the Amperian loop. So here again, you have a different Amperian loop. You have considered in this case, if you look at this blue colored surface, that is at the middle. This blue surface is between the two plates of the capacitor. So in this case also, is there any current flowing between the plates of the capacitor? No. Here also, the current flowing through the surface is equal to 0. Therefore, the magnetic field is equal to 0. Now, how do I know which is the correct value of magnetic field? Because at the same point, with different Gaussian surface, with different Amperian surfaces, we get different values of magnetic field, which itself says that there is something which is not correct with the Ampere's circuital law. So that means the Ampere's circuital law is not a consistent law. It is not true at all scenarios. That means, so Maxwell said that Ampere's circuital law is not incorrect. There is some gap in the Ampere's circuital law, and Maxwell filled that gap. And what was that gap? So that is what is known as Maxwell's correction. That means Maxwell corrected the Ampere's circuital law and made it consistent at all scenarios. So you understood, right, that why Ampere's circuital law, how did he show that Ampere's circuital law was not consistent? Because when he chose different surfaces, he found different values of magnetic field at the same point. Ampere's circuital law was inconsistent. It was proved by Maxwell. So till now, what did Maxwell do? Till now, Maxwell what he did was, first he proposed that if Faraday-Lenz law is true, that means if a time-varying magnetic field can produce electric field, then why can't a time-varying electric field produce magnetic field? So Maxwell started working on this to prove that a time-varying electric field also produces a magnetic field. So for that, the first thing he observed was that the Ampere's circuital law, which was well accepted by everybody, he found that the law was inconsistent, right? Then he did something to make that law consistent. So that we will see now. Thank you.